Well, welcome back to the Storyteller. Tales of survival, tales of cool, tales of stupidity, and tales of you're really lucky to be alive, Glenn. So today, I want to tell you about why my shoulder hurts. Because it does. Right now, today, if I move my left shoulder in a certain way, any time of any day, it hurts. Now, my right shoulder doesn't hurt. Only my left shoulder. So sit back and enjoy while I tell you how it is that my shoulder has come to hurt. So this was about, I'm thinking this was about 1986. We're going to go with 1986 because, yeah, just kind of placing it. I don't think it was 87, the great, fantastic year that I graduated. I think it was before, a little bit before that. And my parents and I, the family, was out in Colorado. We were out at Keystone and we were out there to ski. Now, I got a lot of skiing under my belt. I first skied probably when I was about 10 or 11 years old in Michigan. Okay, anybody remember Royal Valley? Yeah, skied at Royal Valley. That's where I learned to ski. Me and Ryan Murray. Hey, Murray, are you out there? Yeah, you remember that one year? Dude, that was cool. You know what? I got a story about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that maybe someday. Yeah, me and Ryan Murray learned to ski pretty much at Royal Valley. Well, this was Colorado. Family was in Colorado. We were in Keystone, and I'd gotten to be a pretty good skier by then. In the 84, 85 school year, I went to Campion Academy, which is a Seventh-day Adventist boarding academy on the Front Range of Colorado, near Loveland, Colorado, and we went skiing in the winter every single Sunday. I mean, it was like $15 to go to Winter Park. So me and the dudes, Aaron Hatfield. Aaron, are you out there? Aaron and I would ski. We would ski just black, man. Just black until we were just exhausted. And then we would ski some more. So I got pretty good. So I'm with the family, and then there might have been some friends. I don't know. There might have been some other people kind of with us, but kind of been doing the, cruise with everybody else thing, which at 17 years old, just a little boring. Now, I mean, when you're 56, 57, spending an entire day on school marm at Keystone actually sounds like a pretty good idea. It actually sounds very safe. But back then, it was boring. All right, so I had done enough of that. I'm like, hey, I'm going out on my own. And at this time at Keystone, they had just expanded into North Peak. If you know any history of Keystone. Now, before they had expanded into North Peak, Keystone rightly was criticized as a beginner's mountain because there was like 2 black runs on the entire front face of Keystone. So when they expanded to North Peak, man, it was blue-black. You couldn't get to North Peak on a green run. You can get out of North Peak on a green run. So it was like, hey, man, you got to be intermediate or expert to ski North Peak. So I headed to North Peak. Went down, and I don't remember all the runs I did, but I remember these. Went up the chairlift to the top of North Peak, took a hard left, skied back along the lift just a little bit, and then took a right down Geronimo. All right, you've been to North Peak, you've been to Keystone, you've been to North Peak, Geronimo, black run, always got bumps, always bumpy. So, man, I hit the bumps, doing great, and I got down to the bottom. And the bumps kind of run out. It turns from steep bumps to cool kind of cool, oblong, weird shaped blue bumps. And then it just kind of runs out, because you lose the steepness and people lose rhythm. And so it's kind of the bottom of the hill. But I noticed as I was down there, I noticed that there was the hill kind of came down and then it went up a little bit, a gradual little gully. And then it did this long, very, very smooth, very steady, very even radius hump, very long. My 17-year-old eyes and brain began to put pieces together in some kind of scientific experiment. And actually, this goes back to what I've already said in my stories about how kids and even humanity in general has this thing about being airborne. Like, we just love that thing. The story of the big wheel and the snow jump. I think I've already told you guys that one. Airborne. And my calculations began to calculate distance and height in the air. And I thought, you know what? If I stay up the hill a little bit and just straighten it out and tuck it, I'll come down, hit this nice little gully, and then as I go over this hump, I got to have a lot of speed because it's not a jump. If I have a lot of speed, if I just carry a ton of speed, I'm going to come down through that very gentle gully, and as I go over this hump, I'm just going to leave the hump, baby. I'm going to have a velocity that gravity cannot touch. And I'm going to fly all the way over this very long hump, 2-3 feet off the air. And when I get to the end, I actually kind of thought about the landing on this one, which is often a problem with youth, the lack of fully calculating the landing, which actually comes into play on this. But I'm just gonna touch down gently because the hump's gonna run out, and I will be one cool cat. And if it were today, I would have set up my camera, right? Somehow walked back up the hill and got it on video. Well, this was before video. You would have had to have the big shoulder VCR cam, movie projector. Well, we didn't have that. So so I skied on down to the lift, went back up, same thing. Take a hard left, ski a little bit, right down Geronimo, skied the bumps again, and then I got to my stopping place, the plan. And there it was. I could see down the hill, I could see the gradual little gully, and I could see the hump. And all I could think of was airborne. There's a theme to these stories, isn't there? Airborne. Well, so I did it. I straightened my skis and I took off. Now, a couple years ago, I was out skiing at Keystone with my nephew, Joe, and we had an absolute riot. Joe's a great skier. And so I went with Joe because I could almost keep up with Joe. I can't, but I could almost. At least I could ski what he skis. So, but Joe and I did this experiment on the outback of Keystone. And on the outback, there's this catwalk at the bottom. You ski these awesome runs in the trees or green runs or black runs. And then you get to the bottom and there's this catwalk that just goes for like half a mile. And if you don't carry some speed into that, you're just ticked off. Because you're pulling along, man. Anyway, it's worth skiing out there. But Joe and I were like, hey, we got GPS. Let's turn on our GPS. And from this part of the hill where the bumps are kind of run out, it's still like a blue, pretty good blue run, but the bumps have run out. Let's just tuck it, man. Let's just see how fast we can go. And so Joe and I did this, and we did it like on 4 or 5 different runs. We'd ski the run, we'd get to this place, and then we'd do the same thing. And we got 40 miles an hour, 41, 42. And I think Joe probably had about the fastest. I think he clocked about 45. All right. This is just dude on skis, man. Yeah, it's not the downhill, 80 miles an hour, but it's half that, right? So back to me as a 17-year-old. So I'm tucking it, headed for this beautiful hump. And so there's a pretty good chance that I was doing over 35. There's a pretty good chance I was doing 40 miles an hour. Okay. And so I came down through the very gentle gully that you really couldn't even notice. And there was the hump. I'm telling you, man, it worked. It worked. I just left the ground. I didn't jump. You know, you didn't have to try to do anything with your leg. I just left the ground, man. I was just airborne. There's that word again. I was just airborne, and it was like levitating. But somewhere in there, I realized that I had miscalculated because I was it was 1 foot and it was cool, 2 feet and it was cool, 3 feet and it was cool, 4 feet, 5 feet, maybe even 6 feet or more. And I'm still hauling the mail. And now, when I look ahead, I never thought I would fly this far. Never. And so I cut myself some slack. I did think about the landing. I just didn't calculate the distance correctly. Because now I'm still doing 40 miles an hour. I'm 6 feet in the air. And I'm seeing that the hump comes down beautifully until there's a place where probably when they built the run, they cut in a washout, an intentional washout, to direct, winter runoff off of off the slope, kind of sideways across the slope. But it was a really steep little gully, and it wasn't very, it wasn't very high. It was only, maybe that little up part was maybe 3 or 4 feet, right? So down, up 3 or 4 feet, and then level. But my miscalculations were perfect because as I flew, the point of impact was directly at that little blip, that little gully blip. Perfect. I didn't hit just below it, or I might have hit right at the bottom, but I clearly remember that my face was headed directly toward it. So maybe my feet kind of touched down right at the base, doing 40 miles an hour. But the rest of me continued on just for a little bit longer. And you know what happened. If you're a skier, you're laughing because you're thinking, yard sale, baby. And man, it was a yard sale. I mean, we're talking wham! And we're talking ski, like a butterfly. The other ski. We're talking goggles gone. I mean, I don't think we actually wore helmets in those days. I was either skiing with a Cincinnati Reds ball cap or a Bobcat ball cap. One of the two. I mean, white out, instant white out conditions. I came to a halt. And as I remember, I don't know if I cartwheeled or if it was just, my face just ground my face into the snow. I don't know. I didn't really have any cuts on my face. My goggles survived, so whatever. I sat up though. I think I kind of came to actually sitting up. And it's like flat ground, right? So you have this epic wipeout and you're just on flat ground. And I kind of start to look around. And then I look down. And my left shoulder is right here. Literally, it's right here. It's right here. It's not here. It's here. Now, I don't know how I went from, this position to actually knocking the thing. I might have turned, somehow, but anyway, it got absolutely wrecked. Now, unfortunately, maybe, or fortunately, I don't know. I had seen a movie not long before that. I don't like violent movies. I don't really watch violent movies unless it's Aragorn killing orcs. Somehow that's okay. Um, they're not human, but I'm not really into human violent people killing each other kind of movies. But I had been with my cousins, a bunch of cousins, sometime in the previous, I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year, and they had made me sit through Lethal Weapon. I think it was Lethal Weapon. It's been a long time. It's been 40 years, but I think it was Lethal Weapon. And I think the lead guy, which I think was Mel Gibson, if I remember correctly, he could get out of a straitjacket by dislocating his shoulder, and then he could squirm out of it. And then when he was done, he'd just whack it back into place. So I had seen this movie. So I'm sitting there at the base of Geronimo, Keystone, North Peak, with a dislocated shoulder, thinking, huh, well, that's not very good. But hey, man, I've seen Lethal Weapon. If Mel Gibson could do it, so can I. So I just wound up. Poof. Whoa. Hey, man, dude was right. It's like back in place. Wow, ooh, it hurts. Hurts like heck, but I don't know. It's back in place. I didn't break nothing. Didn't break my legs or wrists or anything. And so I got up and I collected all my parts and I put them all together and skied on down. But it was kind of like some other stories where you have a near death experience and you just tone it down just a little. Just a little. I think I'm just going to go ski some blue runs for a while. Actually, maybe I'll go back up to the Summit Lodge and maybe I'll link up with my folks. And yeah, maybe I'll ski school marm with mom again. So, you know, that's why my shoulder hurts. 40 years later, 40, that was in 1986. It's 2026, 40 years ago. I dislocated my shoulder, popped it back into place, and every day since then, I have a little bit of shoulder pain as a remembrance of how youth, how vitality, energy, and skill are wasted on the youth. So I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky I didn't break my neck. And I would just recommend to young people. Actually, there's really nothing to recommend because you won't listen to me. You're going to do whatever you want. And when you're 57 years old, you'll have a sore shoulder too. So whatever you're doing today, enjoy it. And except for motorcycles, man, don't get on a motorcycle and do like 200 miles an hour. Please don't do that. I'm serious. That I don't have a story. I do have stories about that. Oh man, I am lucky to be alive. Yeah. Ooh. My dad didn't want me to buy a motorcycle, and he was right. My dad was right. You notice how when you get about 50 some years old, you realize your dad was always right? He really was. All right. Well, that's my story. You don't have to hit like. You don't have to subscribe because I don't care. I'm just here to tell stories. And but if you do like it, put something in the comments. Give me one of your own stories or show me a link to your story, which is just as hilarious and just as near-death experience. And I'll watch it. And you can come back next time, and I'll show you. I'll give you another story of maybe a near-death experience or something when I thought I was really cool or something where I guarantee you I was really stupid. And we'll have fun with more stories together. So thanks for watching. See you next time.